Hi, my name is Chaitendra Sharma, and I'm International Student Advisor at SFU. I'm joined by my colleague, Karen. Karen is also an immigration specialist in the International Service for Students Office, who has kindly offered to moderate our discussion today. I'm also going to share my screen. Can you please see it? Karen, can you confirm that you can see the screen?
I can see the screen.
Okay,
It's
thank
perfect.
you. Okay, thank you. So given the current context, it is important that we acknowledge the land that we are on. As visitor on this land, we have an important responsibility to acknowledge the unceded grounds on which we all privileged to gather in the pursuit of higher education. I would like to begin by respectfully acknowledging the Musqueam, Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, Catsi, Quetquetlum, Kikite, Kwantlen, Semi-Amu, and Tsava Sen people on whose traditional territory our three SFU campuses reside. To go over our agenda for today, we will start an overview of recent updates to Canadian immigration policy, as well as restriction on entry to Canada. This component of the presentation is being recorded. We will then devote the remainder of the session to Q&A period. On that note, I would like to acknowledge that you might have many questions, and we will cover as much as we can today. As the pandemic evolves, things continue to change rapidly as much as possible, but I may not have all the answers, and those I too may change as we may be speaking. The information that we share today is current to the best of my knowledge as of today's date, for those who, if you're watching the recording, is October 6, 2021. For those who are registered for the live session, we will be sending you an email in the next few days with a list of resources you can refer to if you would like to review any of the information from today. Let's get started. As ISS, we offer a range of services to help support you transition to SFU as international student. You can see a list of what we offer on this slide. Essentially, we offer non-academic advising, anything to do with temporary resident status or documentation as international student in Canada. Our 5 immigration specialists are all regulated Canadian immigration consultant and are licensed to provide advice on your study permit, visa, on and off campus work, regulations, and more. If you are looking to connect with an ISSA International Student Advisor for questions about your immigration documents, work eligibility, or medical insurance as an international student, you can reach us in a number of ways. We have resumed in-person services, but we continue to offer advising via a number of other methods, including email, virtual appointments, live chat, phone, and drop in or booked appointment, which we conduct via Zoom. Another great resource, and probably the first one that I would recommend you to access, is our website, where you can find the answer to most common questions. To say that there have been a lot of changes and uncertainty over the past 18 months is an understatement. Let's recap some of the recent changes that have taken place. As we know that 3-night mandatory hotel booking has been eliminated for all air travelers arriving after August 9, regardless of their vaccination status. If you are fully vaccinated, you are exempted from post-arrival testing unless randomly selected. Pre-arrival testing is still required. If you are recently recovered from COVID-19, then you might be exempted from pre-arrival testing. You will be required to produce a test and that should have taken in the last 14 to 180 days before the departure. Fully vaccinated travelers from all over the world are now eligible to travel to Canada for non-essential reasons. Direct flight between India and Canada have resumed from September 27, 2021. Flight ban from Morocco is still in effect until at least October 29, 2021. Current border restrictions have been extended at least until November 21st, 2021, and we expect that they will be extended again. The co-op work permit as a standalone document cannot be applied from outside Canada unless you are applying with your study permit. So we know that SFU shifted to online learning in early 2020 in response to COVID-19 and recently returned to in-person classes during fall 2021. However, I do understand that some of you might not have been able to travel due to various reasons and may have questions about how online learning may impact your study permit and postgraduate work permit. From an immigration standpoint, Immigration, Refugee and Citizenship Canada confirmed early on that online learning as a result of COVID-19 pandemic will not impact study permit compliance. As per the regulation, international students can continue to study online until the end of this year, December 31st, 2021, without having any impact on their postgraduate work permit. So now it depends whether you are a new student, whether you are a continuing student. So if you are a continuing student, you can continue to study online from your home country until the end of this year. And the time will be counted towards your postgraduate work permit as long as you have a valid study permit. If you are a new student and if you have already started your program from your home country, then you need to take into consideration number of factors. For example, have you submitted your study permit before start of your class? If yes, then the time spent will be counted towards your postgraduate work permit. However, if you are yet to submit your postgraduate study permit application, then in that case, that time may not count towards your postgraduate work permit. Also, please remember that you would need a study permit for any in-person component in Canada. So pandemic has definitely created unique challenges for many students, and for many reasons, some students might have to take time off from their studies or study on a part-time basis. With a return to mostly in-person learning in the fall 2021 term, there could be factors at play which may impact your ability to study full-time in that term. You may also have chosen to study part-time in this current term. As you are likely aware, your enrollment at SFU affects your ability to work, study, or stay in Canada. So as an international student, you are obligated to actively pursue studies, defined by IRCC as making timely, reasonable progress towards completing your program. A student may be enrolled part-time, full-time, and still comply with the condition of their study permit. However, when it comes to work eligibility, generally speaking, full-time enrollment is required in the term that you would like to work, unless a student meets the requirement for regularly scheduled break. Student must also meet the requirement to work on and off campus. So for example, in order to work on and off campus in the fall 2021 term, you are required to enroll full-time and meet IRCC work eligibility requirement, which basically means that you should have a condition of your study permit that allows you to work on and off campus. Although there was some flexibility previous year, there is no flexibility in terms of other than meeting the requirement. So if you are in Canada and would like to work on and off campus during a regular academic session, you need to be full-time. The only exception to this is if this is your last term of studies, where you can maintain work eligibility while studying full-time, part-time only. And if you are full-time in all other required terms throughout your degree. Please keep in mind that students who are eligible to work off campus are limited to working a maximum of 20 hours per week during a regular academic session and full-time during a regularly scheduled break. For undergrad students, regularly scheduled break means a summer term. And to be considered a scheduled break, you must be enrolled full-time before and after. So for example, for summer 21 to be considered as a scheduled break, you must be enrolled full-time in spring 21 and also in fall 2021. For graduate student, there is no scheduled break, so that means you need to maintain full-time throughout your program. Now, moving on to postgraduate work permit, students are required to maintain full-time student status during each semester of their studies, with few exceptions to be eligible for their work permit after completing their program. So if you had to take a break during this term, or if you were not able to maintain full-time during this term, please make sure that you keep a note of all the documentation and keep a note of all the reasons which require you to take a break and because of which you were not able to maintain full-time status. When it is time for you to apply for your postgraduate work permit, please make sure that you include these reasons so that you have maximized your chances of getting a work permit. Now, some cases, it might be possible that some of your this is especially true for new students who might have started their program in fall, and if they have the study permit refused. So can they still continue to study even if the study permit is refused? So in cases where study permit application is submitted before a program start, but is refused, and if you submit a subsequent study permit application and you received your acceptance before the end of the program, the studies undertaken after the first study permit application that was received by the IRCC will count towards the length of your postgraduate work permit. But I also understand that some of you might not be comfortable with taking that chances, so please make sure that you understand your options carefully and then make a decision whether you want to continue studying in the fall term or not. Next, we will go through some key updates about the application processing and biometrics requirement. As of April 2021, IRCC has reverted back to pre-pandemic processing and is streamlining its overseas processing time for study permit application. If you recall earlier this year, IRCC confirmed that if you submitted your complete study permit application, including biometrics and medical examination by May 15, you should get final decision by August 6, 2021. But I do note that some of that were delayed because some of you were unable to give biometrics because of closure of service center in your country or city. But again, I also acknowledge that the processing time may not meet the pre-pandemic process time yet because so many of our students continue to face delays in their application. In terms of biometrics, it is suspended or limited in many areas of the world. But if you submit your application from outside Canada, it is a requirement that cannot be waived off. However, if you applied for your study permit or any temporary resident from inside Canada, as per the current public policy, you are exempted from giving biometrics until further notice. Now we can move along to start talking about travel restriction, which I know are on many people's mind. And we also receive a lot of questions very regularly about the ever-evolving requirement to travel to Canada. The most common question we are receiving lately is, can I travel to Canada? Many students who are currently here in Canada are also wondering whether they will be allowed to return to Canada if they travel home for a visit. While there is no one-size-fits-all answer to these questions, the Government of Canada did introduce update to the travel restriction in October last year, which were positive in the sense that they allowed more international students to enter or re-enter Canada. I want to encourage you to consider what is the best for you, because the question is not only can you travel to Canada, but also should you. What decision will best support your physical and mental health, as well as your academic success, all of which are critical elements of your well-being. On the topic of travel restriction, the temporary travel restriction for all travelers seeking to enter Canada have recently been extended at least until November 21st, 2021. As COVID-19 continue to evolve rapidly, these dates may be further extended if needed. At this point, it is not clear when the travel restriction will be lifted completely, how long they will remain in effect, or if there would be further changes made to current travel restriction and quarantine requirements. But in terms, if you speak about the current travel restriction, as an international student, you must meet the following requirement to travel to Canada. Either you should have valid study permit, or you should have an approval of your study permit. You should be attending a designated learning institute with a COVID-19 readiness plan before you travel to Canada. I'm happy to say that SFU does have an approved COVID readiness plan in place. And last but not the least, you should be enrolled in the term to be able to demonstrate that you are traveling to Canada for an essential reasons. So as long as you meet these criteria, you should be able to travel to Canada. Now, I understand that some of you might have not been able to travel to Canada at the beginning of fall semester and might be wondering, can you travel in the middle of semester? So yes, as per the current travel restrictions, as long as you are enrolled, as long as you have study permit or study permit approval, you can still travel in the middle of the semester. Next question would be, I understand some of you might want to travel with your family. So I understand that you might be wondering like whether it's possible to travel with the family. So yes, immediate family members, that is basically spouse, dependent children, may be able to come to you with Canada, provided they have proper immigration documents, and the reason for traveling is also non-discretionary. Generally speaking, immediate family members seeking to accompany and support you during your studies in Canada should be considered traveling for essential, non-essential reason if they are traveling with you. If they plan to travel after you have arrived in Canada, then they would need to demonstrate that they meet the travel exemption criteria. Depending upon their country of citizenship, your family members may also need to apply for TRV or ETA to travel to Canada. A quick recap on this topic and some consideration to keep in mind. The final decision with regards to entry to Canada always rests with an officer at the POE or port of entry, and we cannot 100% confirm whether you would be permitted to enter Canada. Please also refer to IRCC website for a list of documents you are required to carry when traveling to Canada. You can also refer to COVID-19 FAQ website, which also include the information. We also strongly recommend that you contact your airline in advance of your travel days to Canada to clarify whether there are any additional documents that you need to carry in order to board your flight. And last but certainly not least, please ensure you have the appropriate immigration documents or authorization required to travel to Canada before your travel. If you are unsure or have questions, please feel free to contact us directly. I would also like to mention that please make sure that you include your information, including your travel, vaccination status in the ArriveCan app before you travel to Canada. So some of you might be wondering, like, should I have a quarantine plan even when I'm fully vaccinated, considering that the government of Canada has announced that those who are fully vaccinated are not required to quarantine. However, as per the information available on the Government of Canada website, if you are an international student, you are required to have credible quarantine plan when you travel to Canada. The final decision whether you are exempted from quarantine or not will be made by the border officer at the port of entry. If you're unsure about how to create your quarantine plan, you can get in touch with SFU Cares team, and they would be happy to help with you planning a quarantine plan for you and your family. So just to give again final recap, so these are the requirements for you to take care of before you travel to Canada. Pre-arrival testing is required whether you are vaccinated or not vaccinated. Arrival testing. If you are fully vaccinated, it is not required unless randomly selected, but if you are partially or not vaccinated, it would be required. 3 nights hotel stopover has been eliminated for all of you, whether you are vaccinated or not. 14 days quarantine for fully vaccinated, it might be exempted if assessed by the border officer. For non-vaccinated, you will still need to go through 14 days of quarantine. Day 8 testing has been eliminated for fully vaccinated travelers, but is still needed for partially or non-vaccinated travelers. So, okay, now we have one more talk to cover today before we move on to the questions, medical insurance. It is always important that you have medical insurance while you are at SFU. However, it is especially important now to ensure that you have adequate medical insurance given that pandemic is ongoing. So there are two insurance, as you might be knowing already, primary and secondary insurance. For new students, the primary insurance is provided by GuardMe. So only new students in their first term are enrolled in this temporary primary coverage intended to provide students with coverage during the first 3 months wait period for the MSP. Continuing SFU students are no longer automatically enrolled in GuardMe in each subsequent term and must apply for MSP if you are residing in BC. If fall 2021 was your first term at SFU, you would have been automatically enrolled into GuardMe until the end of this year, December 31st. As you will not be enrolled into GuardMe coverage in subsequent terms, please make sure that you submit an application for BCMSP if you have already not done that. If you begin your studies outside of Canada in fall 2021 term, the opt-out deadlines has already passed. If you are in Canada and have a BCMSP, you can apply to opt out of the GuardMe insurance to receive a partial refund by November 30th. Provided that you have not used to replace a policy or have not made any claim. Enrollment in fall 2021 term also means that you are automatically enrolled in the secondary medical insurance coverage by the graduate or student society of Simon Fraser University for the policy year September 1st, 2021 until August 31st of next year. Again, the opt-out period for this has already passed. The September 21st was the last date to opt out of your secondary coverage. I also understand because vaccine is a way for us to get out of this pandemic as soon as possible. And I also understand that some of you might not have access to COVID-19 vaccination and might be wondering whether you would be able to receive COVID-19 vaccine in Canada. So yes, in BC, everyone, irrespective of their status, is eligible to receive vaccination in Canada or in BC. So I also understand that you might have heard about the BC vaccine passport, because in order to access some of the services on campus or outside the campus, you would need to show that you have BC vaccine passport. If you're outside of Canada, you cannot apply for BC vaccine passport. But if you are inside Canada, you should apply for BC vaccine passport as soon as possible. When you apply for BC Vaccine Passport, you would need personal health number. So generally that is made available to you once your MSP is approved. But if you are new to BC or your MSP is still in the processing, you can call BC MSP directly and they will provide you temporary PHN number, and that will help you to enroll for BC vaccination passport. So thank you so much for your patience going through all these updates. I know there's a lot of information packed in this session, and we will now move to our Q&A session. I will end the recording in a moment. So for those of you watching the recording, thank you for watching, and we hope to see you in the future workshop or in one-on-one advising. For those of you who are still with us, we will move along now to Q&A period.